So if you can imagine, I'm in paradise. I don't know if you can see how clear the water is, but obviously I'm in a very nice place to be in. I'm not gonna just flat out say where I'm at, but I will give you that information if you're someone who would consider joining me out here, because I'm out here all alone. Interestingly, something about me is that I've known about the truth since I was 21, which was 7 years ago. And I've actually traveled the world searching for the best place to live in, and this is where I'm at currently is one of my top picks. So there's a reason I'm here, and it's not for the clear water. That is a perk though, but what you'd realize is that the system is closing on you, and unless you find yourself in a more strategic location, you may end up starving to death. And that doesn't sound as good as it sounds, or it's worse than it sounds. Starving to death is one of the hardest things you could ever do on Earth. Interestingly, yesterday while I was editing this new local language PDF, don't be concerned all of you who are passing out my English version, I'm not editing that one anymore. It's been like 2 weeks since I've touched it. I don't need to touch it ever again. Praise the Most High that I was able to do that work. I'm glad so many of you are passing it out. The purpose of this video, to spit it out already, to make it clear, is I want to explain where I'm at mentally and why it's so important that at least one of you joins me here. If I could have it my way, all of you who are worthy of my company, not to sound like I'm egotistical, but this is how we're supposed to view one another. If you're following the commandments of the Most High, then you're my brother and sister, even if I've never met you. But what you'd find is that this is a very small percentage on Earth, and even among one another, we have to be careful, because there's a lot of people who come in just for a short while, and then they're gone, because they were never really legit. There's actually many of these people. But there are some of us who are legit. I'm obviously one of them. I've been here since the beginning, and I've never left the truth. I don't consider that even a possibility. I don't consider it even possible, because I don't consider it a possibility. And I've been here so long, I have the fruits to show. I have the work and the record to prove it with. This video is not about me, and it's not even about you. This video is about where I'm at mentally, and why I'm making this video is to explain that to you, and also further my offer for one of you to join me. You see, I don't exactly want to give out where I'm at, but in the background, you can see ships coming here constantly. You wouldn't be able to figure out where I'm at based on that criteria, but the point is that you see, every day I see ships coming here, and I figure it might as well be one of you guys, because the thing about traveling on a sailboat is that it's very hard to regulate. In fact, there's more crime that happens on sailboats than anywhere else. Furthermore, the border restrictions and all that, it's not really for sailboats. It's for everyone else. When you have a sailboat, you're pretty much free. And people with sailboats will remain free until the day Christ returns, because you can't really govern people on the ocean. You can't keep them from sailing somewhere, though they have tried and they have influenced and implemented that before during last year's lockdowns. Like in Hawaii and California and other states, they basically closed the harbor mouth. I don't exactly know how they did that, because it's not like they have a gate or anything. But at least they closed the gate to get into where your boat is located. But that's not effective in third world countries where there is no gate. Blah, blah, blah. You understand what I'm telling you, right? So every day I see people coming here without having a test or the mark of the beast, the V. And it's just amazing to me that you guys haven't put in more of an effort to actually join me, especially since I'm already here, knowledgeable, with boots on the ground and a safe house to share with you. And the fact that I'm willing, and that I have the experience, and that I'm in the truth, and that I'm such a trusted teacher, or else you wouldn't be watching me. All of these I can't relate to any of you guys in that sense, because if it was me on your end, I would have made every effort to come here a long time ago. Because I've made this offer 4 or 5 months ago already when I first got here. I don't know what you guys are doing. Quite literally, I don't understand. I'll even give you guys a moment of silence in myself as well, just so I can try and wrap my mind around it. Why would you stay in a city where you will literally starve to death when you could come and join me in Fairy La La Everland, where nothing's happening? Seriously, almost nothing is happening where I'm at. At least not yet. And even when it does, the only real issue in a place like where I'm at is going to be the people around, because they will eventually be changed, to put it lightly. They'll become programmable. And that's a freaking nightmare, especially if you live in like a mainland situation where you can't escape anywhere in any direction. Where I'm at, though, it's not that hard to escape, because if I was to turn the camera around the other way, which I won't do, there's the answer. There's plenty of places to escape. If you have any brain to yourself, you'd know what I'm referencing. But most places, there's nowhere to go. There's no food to eat. There's no water to drink. Most people are in big trouble when this prophecy comes to its fruition, which is very, very close. All they have to do is bring out the news report that someone's lovely old grandmother died because of an infected dollar bill. And then it's game on. That's all they have to do. It's just one news report away. This will progress quickly, but not that quickly. You see, the point here, the reason I'm making this video is to impress upon you people the reality of why aren't you on a sailboat headed here right now? It only takes 2 weeks to get here from basically everywhere on Earth, even the other side of the world. Most sailboats can do like 250, 300 miles a day. So you do the math. If you were to come here from California, it would take you like 10 days. If you were to come here from France, it would take you like 14 days or 15 days. Which is like the other side of the world. I don't know what you people are doing. It strikes me as odd, knowing that if I was in a city, or anywhere basically except where I'm at, I'd be doing everything I could to get to where I'm at. The only exception would be if I was busy doing God's work, but soon that's going to come to an end. Because most people, no matter what we do, most people, speaking of human perspective, because for God, most people have always been irrelevant, even invisible to Him. So, most people who are meant to not take the mark of the beast won't. In fact, everyone who's not meant to won't. But, on the other hand, conversely, everyone who is meant to, and this is how the Most High God speaks, because He doesn't just choose people to follow Him, He also chooses people not to follow Him. It tells you that in the book of Isaiah and I think Romans. I might be wrong in both books, but it tells you, can the vessel say to the potter who made him, "Why hast thou made me thus?" The answer is no, you can't. So God chooses people for both kingdoms. He chooses those who are for His kingdom, and then He will deal with them on a frequency manipulation basis, just like demons do, except He'll do it for your good, leading you to certain conclusions and thoughts, and even teachers and even YouTube videos. Lead you into certain situations, certain promotions, certain tasks, certain knowledge, certain gifts, certain abilities, certain physical capabilities, certain stature physically, mental health, physical health. He'll give you all these blessings, even monetarily, to do His will. Which is a whole nother video I wanted to talk about, how the parable of the talents, it's about Him choosing that it would be better to give you what you have as opposed to divide it in two and give it to two people, knowing that the law of averages would tell you that it's better to divide things in case one fails, at least the other one won't fail, at least usually. But instead He's given you and me all of what we have. So Christ said you have to double what you have. So what you have to do is prove to Him that you ended up doing more with what you had than some group of people that He could have split up your blessings and given to. So that you ended up doing more with what you were given than two people would have if they were each given half of what you've been given. This is the true breakdown of what Christ is talking about with the parable of the talents. So that'd be your only excuse as far as I'm concerned for not coming down here. Monetarily, it's not really the biggest issue. If you can muster up a few $1,000s, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's plenty. If you have more, it's better, but it's not going to really change our living style. I already have the house, I already have the internet, I have money saved. This system where we can buy and sell won't last forever. You can almost see the end of that coming very soon. Warning these people, it'll last a few more months, and then everyone who wants to take the mark will. So we have a very important mission to attend to. So that'd be the only reason why you guys wouldn't be on the way here already, because it only takes a few weeks. And you need to plan it out. It takes more than a few weeks because you have to find the captain. You have to make an agreement where you either are the chef or the cook or you're the night watch. You provide some type of value, maybe even just your company. Usually you'll have to help in some way though, or pay him maybe as little as $50 a day. When you approach these captains, never appear rich, especially if you aren't. Be reasonable, maybe you'll find one who's willing to take you here. People sail here every single day. It's not that hard to find a captain. I found one. You can find one too, especially if you're proactive. I wasn't proactive. All I did was make a Craigslist ad. That's it, basically. But there's many Facebook groups. People literally sail here every day. I constantly see sailboats on the horizon. And there's many of them docked here. And no one even regulates who's parked here or how long they've been here or let's check their visa or where are they from. No one even checks who's in the harbor. It's not even a harbor. You just park your sailboat wherever you want and no one even checks. It's not like a regulated police state where I live in, like where most of you are. So I can't relate to you people who aren't trying to fix that situation that you find yourself in. Because it's a very foolish situation to find yourself in. And what do I get out of all of this? What my goal is to have company, because I'm all alone, as I said. And regarding what's coming down the line, so to speak, it's much better to have a partner or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Literally a small tribe. That would be my goal. And to put it bluntly, when I said what's behind the camera I won't show you, what's behind the camera is a large jungle where you could literally live and grow your own food and easily survive. There's rivers all over the place, food growing everywhere, you can plant your own. It basically grows itself, kind of like the Garden of Eden. Especially if you were to bring some more gear, we would have a very comfortable life very soon. So these are all things that are on my mind. But what's predominantly on my mind is doing the work. I've put in a ton of work for the Most High's Kingdom, and so have many of you. With my PDFs, I'm surprised how many of you have been printing them, and I'm very proud of all of you. And I'm sure that we've all warned collectively many, but again, that term many is not the human term or form of many, because there will never be many who seek truth. Most people will never follow the truth. But as far as God is concerned, the few in His eyes equal many. Because here's a way of explaining it. When I have someone in my life who seeks the Most High and truth and common sense and is equally motivated to do what matters, like warn others and prepare physically and all this type of stuff, when I find someone like that, they're worth many people, as far as I'm concerned. One person like that is worth 100,000 people who aren't like that, even 1 million. Even I'd rather have one over 1 billion. And even one is more useful, as far as I'm concerned, than 1 billion, because the billion will hurt and frustrate me in my plans. This is how God feels, mind you. It's as if I'm speaking on behalf of God, because I feel the same as He does. Whereas the one is actually in conformity and is in agreement with me. This is how God feels. The one is worth the billion. So even though billions from even this current generation or generations, even though most will all be found in the lake of fire post-Judgment Day, it was never about them. It was always about the few. This is how the Most High feels. And this is how I feel, and it makes perfect sense. Amos 3:3, can two walk together except they be agreed? The answer is no, they cannot. James 4:4, if you are a friend of this world, then you are an enemy of God. Which is another reason why I came here in a sense, because there's much less people where I am, which is far better anyways, no matter what, because more people is more problems, less people is less problems, and no people is no problems. God himself authors that quote, though it's not found in the Bible. Even worldly-minded people came up with this quote. But the Bible does teach this. James 4:4, Amos 3:3. If you're a friend of this world, then you're an enemy of God. The word world there actually means people, or even humankind in general. Amos 3:3, can two people walk together, or even two beings, God and man, God and a human, you or me? Can two walk together except they be agreed? No, they can't. It's a resounding no. This is why I don't seek relationships with people around me in real life, because I know that I will be let down every single time. There's almost no one on earth following the Most High. It's literally 1 out of 10 million. Or at least it was a decade ago. Now it's 1 out of, I would think, 20,000. Which is actually still pretty, this time it's unreasonable in the other way. It might be more like 1 out of 40,000. People who know the true doctrine of Christ, that we have to actually change our lives and keep the commandments. And it's a bonus if you know who the real Israelites are, because if you don't, that would mean you don't know much about the Illuminati. And if you don't know much about Freemasonry or the so-called Illuminati, then you can't really understand the Bible. So people who have all of these understandings concentrically, in a well-rounded way, as I and most of you do, there's not many. You should be surprised if you ever meet one in real life, not if you don't. This is the error that many of us have done in the past, where we're frustrated when people don't resemble Christ, or even resemble us in our life. But you should expect that, because that's common. These people are commoners, and this is Satan's kingdom, so commonly you'll find commoners who have much in common with the God of this world, Satan himself. There's nothing out of place there. It's not crazy or strange. It's actually perfectly normal or common, pun intended. It's a disgusting place. We have to make sure that we prove ourselves to the Most High with our last moments in this kingdom, and if it is His will, in the sense that if it is His will that we have to die to prove ourselves to Him, in the sense that some of us will have to die to prove ourselves to Him, because He'll use a single part of your life, perhaps even your own willful death, to acquit you of your sins on Judgment Day. Whereas some people, without them going through that final test of being willing to die as opposed to take the mark, that's the final push they need to be proven or legitimized on the Day of Judgment. The final legitimization, the final points that they need, so to speak, as if it was a game, but it's not a game. So some of us, it's prophesied that we would have to die to make it into the kingdom. Others, however, would be able to somehow survive, scrounge their way through outside of the system, living off, as they call it, off-grid. And in most places, that's not very feasible, especially in places where it's too cold. A lot of people will die if they try this just based on the cold, let alone the lack of sustenance and resources. So you need to be very wise about how you deal with all this type of stuff. Something a lot of you have never even thought about. I, however, put in about 1,200 hours, I would estimate, into Google Earth research back in 2014 and 15 when I first woke up. And fortunately, regarding my top 5 or 6 choices as far as countries go, I got to visit every single one that I was interested in checking out, at least for the most part. And I'm actually in one of those places right now, more or less. So that's a huge blessing. I don't have to deal with the things that you people do, even as I make this video. It's April 1st, 2021. Your life is much different than mine, because where I am, you can't even tell that there's anything going on. Like, there's literally no reminders of it, except for having to supposedly wear a mask in the store. It's only the main street's store where they enforce that. Everywhere else you don't need to wear a mask. It's ridiculous. There's only one letter difference between mask and mark. anyways, it's basically it for this video. Everything I said is common sense. You should have all considered this before. Interestingly, I can name almost every country on Earth, at least in the areas that I was interested in. I can name like half of the 220 or however many countries there are, and I can place them on the map. My knowledge of geography is supreme compared to most people. Most Americans, of which I'm half American, half European. Most Americans can't even point to America on a global map, on a map of the Earth, which to me is just insanity. It's because they had no reason to research it. I, however, did, and I put in hundreds of hours, and I really enjoyed those moments. I was like prophesying my future, figuring out exactly where I'd want to be. I was creating like God. God gave us the ability to create. I remember those moments where I would study and look at Google Images and pictures attached to Google Earth locations and look at and imagine what it would be like to be there, and I just researched all over the place, and I learned so much. It was a great time in many ways. Interestingly though, the things that are happening now I thought would happen much differently, obviously, first of all, and second of all, I thought they would happen a lot sooner. So I actually spent 2016 and 17 and then 18 traveling the earth, checking out those places, knowing that all of this would happen imminently. Although it wasn't that quick, it now is finally happening. And most people still don't even know what's going on. Totally clueless. I, however, am not. My invitation is open to all of you who are of the same mindset, who keep the commandments, who have the same mentality. Hopefully you're able-bodied. I'm not really interested in anyone who isn't, based on what will soon be required. Furthermore, someone who's interested in researching and reading books, I have about 150 ancient Hebrew scrolls, books like the Pseudepigrapha Volumes 1 and 2, Jasher, Jubilees, and Enoch, the Apocalypse of Abraham, and the Book of Adam and Eve, the Apocalypse of... there's many Apocalypse books. I forget what all their titles are. I haven't actually gotten into all of them yet. The Apocalypse of Jacob, there's even a book I think called. All of these books, I literally have them on my bookshelf in a huge cooler, and I would love to get into those, both now and in the future. Imagine being able to survive so-called off-grid and have access to all these books and all the food and water you could eat or drink, and not have to worry about what they're doing in the cities around the world, being literally starved to death or forced to take the mark of the beast at the punishment of death. Imagine if you were able to sideswipe all of those things. I never really had the motivation to consider doing that, because physically, this world and this life is so temporary that it doesn't really matter, and to actually make a successful attempt at doing those things requires a lot of physical dedication and mental strength, much of which I've been dedicating to intellectual pursuits, so I've never really been worried about those other type of things. But as of lately, specifically yesterday, I realized, you know what, this could be fun actually. Time to put my senses back to work and start to consider what will be required of me soon if I don't want to concede and consent to the beast. And there was a feeling, and how this came about was I was watching this Viking channel, as he would style it, this guy named Bjorn Andreas or something, some guy from the Netherlands, and he talks about bushcraft and all this type of stuff, and how it's all about freedom and living apart from the system and being free and all these types of things, even rebelling. And it was within me that the spirit of rebelling was reawakened. Back when I was first waking up to this truth, my first obsession was finding the most isolated places on earth and trying to find so-called isolated peoples or uncontacted tribes within those areas and then living with them until Christ returns. That was my goal. So I started to isolate myself from the modern society and the humans within it and start to become as primitive as possible, or what you would call natural and organic, natural-minded, high-energy, organic, strong. I started to nurture those qualities that this world, as far as the modern world goes, has completely lost contact with or lost touch with. And that was my mindset, to actually use those qualities and mind state to totally just get around what's prophesied. Because what's prophesied is for people who are too weak to do those things. So I looked at it like a challenge. First of all, that I even know what this is all about, where most people are too stupid to even have a clue. So that's interesting in and of itself, because it's almost like the reward for someone like me knowing all of these things beforehand would be to survive it and get around the system and its collapse and the forced mark of the beast. Someone like me shouldn't have to deal with that crap, because I'm not one of these people. I'm not a sheeple. That stuff is for people who are too dumb and unlearned. They deserve those things. But me, having put in thousands of hours of research, I shouldn't have to have that same faith. That's the mindset that I had back in 2015 and 16 while I was doing thousands of hours of research, literally 16 to 17 hours a day, learning about all this stuff, Agenda 21, Georgia Guidestones, Agenda 2030, Skull and Bone Society, all of these things. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to go down with these stupid civilian sheeple. I'm going to find somewhere and make it and totally subvert my destiny out of their hands. That's the mindset that I had. A little background story on that, though, is that I did end up successfully going to one of those places, but as soon as I landed, my dream, if you will, my plan even, died instantly. The reason for that is because as soon as I landed, I saw that the place I had landed in, which I won't name, was basically a mini version of America, if extremely poor and what they would call fifth world, probably. Because I saw cell phones in the hands of the local populace there, and even internet or smartphones, Facebook and pornography, those types of abilities that they had recently attained, which I knew, based on me having put myself in isolation from all of those types of influences, I knew that this means, or this spells out, that their entire society is damned or doomed, and that their culture has been unhinged and destroyed. So my plan died, and a part of my soul felt crushed. My hopes were torn from me, because I realized I had chosen the wrong place. Interestingly, the place I chose, I had recently seen pictures on the internet of the local populace dressed up in tribal gear, custom face paint, war paint, and tribal clothing from their ancestors. I thought that these pictures were of them in their current state of affairs, but I came to find out that these pictures were of them celebrating their past using ceremony, which is something they would do every few months or once a year. It was just a ceremony. It was a ceremonial gathering, not actually how they currently live. Why? Because of Facebook and the internet and pornography and the satanic Freemasons infiltrating their society, giving them these supposed modern wonders, which are actually just weapons to destroy and unhinge society from its culture and roots and power structure and chiefs and tribes and these types of things. So then I wondered, maybe I'll try again and fly to the next location that I know that this type of thing may exist. Come to find out, that next location, the same things happened there as well. There's almost no such thing as uncontacted tribes anymore. 20 years ago there was, now there isn't. But this was the mindset I had. I thought it was very ingenious of me to pick such a path, because that would be the smartest way to get around all of these things that are coming. Just go live with people who it doesn't even affect anyways, even if it does happen, and it will because it's written. However, it's too late for that, but it's not too late for this. So, that'll be it for this video. Shalom.